Hello, my name is Megan Varner, and I am a health coach and physical therapist working with individuals with POTS and chronic fatigue to help them rebuild their energy so that they can thrive again in their lives. I'm very passionate about working with this group of individuals as I myself have these conditions along with a connective tissue disorder called hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome that I've been navigating over the last 10 plus years, and I'm happy to say that with guidance and step by step, you can rebuild your energy and get back more quality and live a life more to the fullest that you can. So this video's topic is, why do I keep waking up at night with POTS? Well, these are commonly called adrenaline surges in the POTS community, and there are a couple reasons. Before I share anything, I do want to preface this with, although I am a physical therapist and health coach, it's very important to check with your individual care team before implementing anything that I share, as we are all on our own individual journeys. And what I'm sharing is for informational purposes only and is not to replace any medical advice that you get from your care team. So, adrenaline surges. Well, adrenaline surges are actually tied back to what is going on with our autonomic nervous system. I've talked about this quite a bit actually in some of my other videos, that there are 3 different states of our autonomic nervous system. And for those of us with POTS, we often get stuck in what some refer to as a persistent sympathetic state, where we're in a fight, flight, stress mode, where our adrenaline is high, cortisol is high, so we're having our blood sugar go up and potentially fall back down. We're having all of our body's resources to try to flee from some type of stressor, or stuck there, more so with POTS and other forms of dysautonomia. That said, there is another state that can actually make it more challenging, I found, for some individuals to get a good restful night's sleep because of so much overlying fatigue. It's more being in this, some call dorsal vagal, or like a shutdown state where we are just unable to move, exhausted, almost kind of in like a hibernation state. Our body is heavy. This state can really make you want to sleep quite a bit, but it can affect the quality of your sleep, or if you sleep all day, can really shift your circadian rhythm and make it harder to fall asleep at night. So, those 2 things explained, for the most part, I talk to clients quite a bit about adrenaline surges, and I'm very familiar with them myself. I struggled with them for many years. Every now and then they still happen to me, but there are reasons why these things happen, and each time something happens, as I remind myself and clients, it can really teach us a lot. So some reasons that your nervous system may be having these adrenaline surges are your body is being pushed to an extreme during the day, where you're not pacing the day to match what your energy level is. So you're pushing too hard physically, mentally, emotionally, and you're getting drained. Kind of like you're burning your candles at both ends, and your body's doing a switch to a fight-flight state to try to keep up and stay at pace or survive. And at night, we are not like a light switch where we can suddenly shut down all of the things going on in our body and our mind and fall asleep. So the next thing that often happens is that we're pushing ourselves so hard right up to bedtime, and we're not having a point where we're beginning to wind down to reduce the amount of energy and adrenaline that's in our system into going into that rest mode. So the wind down routine is important. That said, being aware of what our stress levels are like during the day is super important. I'd say almost one of the biggest things to address is this area of stress. It really is kind of how we're experiencing our day as we move throughout it. So if we're having stress build, mentally, emotionally, physically, our body is having a lot of trouble coming out of that stress state overnight. And I'll share some tips in a minute about how to help that. So keeping in mind, there are certain things that can definitely stress the body. For many that I work with, we are affected by mast cells or mast cell triggers. We have like either histamine intolerance or mast cell activation disorder. There's some great information out there by Ann Maitland and Dr. Afrin on that disorder. But in a nutshell, there are things in our environment and there are things that emotionally can stress us out that can cause more things, that can cause more mast cell mediators to be released in our system. Our mast cells are more active at night. So if we're getting triggered throughout the day and especially triggered into the evening, these mast cells can cause us to wake up during the night, and either from the reaction that they cause itself or kind of sending our body into that stressed mode. So narrowing those down as to if you're sensitive to certain triggers is very helpful in that area. If you're working with your physician, working with someone like me as a coach, it can be very helpful on your journey to getting a better night's sleep. Another area that is super important and actually is connected to what I just talked about is thinking about what you are eating during the day. Certain foods can trigger mast cell reactions, but the types of foods that we fuel our body with throughout the day affects whether our body is in a more alert, calm state or in more of a stressed state. So if we're eating things that are causing our blood sugars to spike and then drop and spike and then drop, and especially as we go in towards bedtime, when our blood sugar is dropping, our body's going into a stressed state that in turn can cause an adrenaline surge and wake us up. The two low-hanging fruits in this area are what you're doing when it comes to your protein and your carbohydrates. Protein helps keep your blood sugar more stable. Carbohydrates with fiber definitely help, but between the two, protein is usually the go-to to help you sleep better. It also helps with a lot of other processes in the body in making hormones, neurotransmitters. So keep that in mind, and I'll say more about that in a minute. Another area that many with POTS are already very well aware of, but may not know is connected to how well we sleep, is our fluid and electrolyte balance during the day. When we become dehydrated or our electrolytes get imbalanced, kind of the big three being sodium, potassium, and magnesium, that can send our body into more of a stressed state. That can overflow into the night. So talking with your care team about what amount of fluid they recommend for you and electrolytes. It's not all about sodium. The other two are important. To keep yourself balanced throughout the day with your nervous system can actually help you sleep better. And hint, hint, one of them in particular, magnesium, can help with sleep. That's something to consider if you haven't tried it. So now that I've shared the reasons why you may be having adrenaline surges, waking up at night, or potentially making it hard to even fall asleep at night, I want to share a couple tips that I'd encourage you to consider maybe trying one of them, two of them, and seeing what difference they make, because it can be amazing how just making a couple changes can really affect how well that you sleep. So in the first area of pacing, looking at what your energy level is, finding a objective measure, I've talked about this in another video, heart rate variability and heart rate trends, to see where you're at that day and to try to match your activities as best you can to that. Having tools to help rebuild your energy throughout the day and to help bring your body out of a stress state, help bring your body out of either that physical stress or that emotional or that mental stress can be very helpful too. Many of these tools can actually be used as wind down tools in the evening. One of my favorites, and I talk about it quite frequently, is breath work. There's a particular type of breath work I like called resonance frequency breathing using biofeedback, but there are a ton of other ones out there. It can be very helpful to work with someone like a coach to help you figure out which one gives you the most benefits, and that is definitely where biofeedback can come in and be helpful. I also like vagal nerve massages, havening techniques, rocking and rolling motions, and just even doing some very basic acupressure points or the EFT emotional freedom technique for some people can be very helpful in that area. The other part is, of course, figuring out the hydration and electrolytes. I already talked quite a bit about that, but If you have not explored that area, or if you haven't made any tweaks in that area for a while, that's definitely worth shifting and figuring out if you can make any changes, and even spacing things out more during the day can make a huge difference. And then definitely last but not least, looking at your diet. Like I said, the balance of the fuel that we put in is super important for those of us with POTS, because we tend to be more sensitive to those blood sugar highs and lows. So prioritizing protein, often eating it first is the way to go, and following it up with whole food carbohydrates throughout the day, so that your body is not going into these crashes into a state of stress. And also considering at night what you're eating, because what you eat at night can definitely impact what your blood sugar is during the day. So having a good source of protein, fats can be helpful too, finding ones that agree with you, and whole food carbohydrates, and trying not to do quite as many processed ones if you're able to. So I hope this video was helpful to give you some guidance and some tips that you can try to help yourself sleep better and have fewer adrenaline surges waking up in the night, making you feel really groggy and irritable the next day. If you would like more tips or personalized guidance on how you can sleep better so that you can get back to thriving more in your life, I offer a free 45-minute session for anyone that is interested. Drop a comment below the video, or you're welcome to email me at megan.varner@guidetoresilience.com.